Welcome to EduSet Network. Friend, today we have another lecture on sociological thinker Robert Merton. Today we will try to compare the Robert Merton with other sociological thinker, and for discussion on this very topic we have in a studio the same resource person, Dr. Subhas Mahapatra. He is a known sociologist and he teaches sociology in Delhi University, and he has his own view of interpreting the sociological thinker idea in present context. So certainly his lecture will help us to understand Robert Merton in the present day context. So on your behalf, I welcome Dr. Mahapatra for EduSet lecture on this very topic. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. And my dear students in different parts of the country. I consider Robert K. Merton and its sociology carries tremendous importance to understand the dynamics of social change that Indian society is experiencing today. Few days back, we had a civil society movement. And this civil society movement was considered as a movement against corruption. Corruption is a very fundamental question that is being addressed by modern sociology of deviance. He addressed to the issue of corruption not by giving a kind of explanation that whether corruption is good or it is bad. He addressed to the question why corruption persists in society. How is corruption addressing to the needs of the people in different ways? He also looks into various dimensions of corruption in his theory of deviance. Also in today's India, we find out that many people go for different kinds of abnormal activities. Look into everyday newspaper, you find out people go for crime, sex racket is getting a momentum, there is a persistence of child labor, bonded labor, poverty. All these questions can best be addressed by modern sociology of deviance and social structure. I'd like to divide my today's lecture into two parts. In the first part, I'll be discussing his contribution to reference group theory and his contribution to the study of deviance. In the second part, I'll be comparing Robert K. Merton with other established sociological theorists like Durkheim, Marx, Weber, and Parsons. And finally, I'll make an attempt to explain the contemporary significance of Merton sociology with specific reference to India. Merton is not concerned about, as I told you yesterday, developing grand sociological theories. He wants that sociology should be primarily so developed that empirical facts and theories should be developing a kind of synchrony with each other. Means theories should be coming out of the facts, and theories will be explaining the facts in a systematic manner. Without a theory, facts will be not having a systemic presentation of ideas. Therefore, theory provides a broad framework in the light of which we can understand facts in an organized and systematic manner. Reference group theory is not actually theory. It is an explanation about how an individual is shaping his everyday life, how a group is negotiating with another group, how a country or community is being interrelating itself with our communities. Reference means a group, a community, a body of people to whom we consider as special, ideal, and a point of reference. So we follow them in a distinctive manner, keeping in mind that one day or the other we can reach into their position and status. So this reference as an idea or reference as a group is helping us to move forward, determining the destiny of our life, controlling the degree of dissatisfaction in us, and experience social mobility and experience development. For example, when Pandit Nehru initiated development program for India, he considered that developed countries are the point of reference for India. He kept multiple reference groups as the ideals for India, therefore borrowed ideals from Soviet Russia, borrowed ideas from capitalist America, looked into the indigenous needs of the people, and combining them together, Nehru and Mohalambis, they forwarded mixed economy as a model for India's road towards development. Therefore, reference group are the point of reference for us. Keeping what in mind, we look forward. We try to achieve progress and growth. We try to experience development and well-being. This reference group theory is in a different way forwarded by different social scientists. If I look into the writings of social psychologist C.H. Cooley, I'll be considering as the first person who brilliantly analyzes how an individual in an interactional situation, keeping others as the point of reference and corresponding to that reference ideals, one modifies, restructures, shape his own behavior. Cooley develops a theory which is known as looking glass self. He tells when a person is communicating with the other person, he is evaluating how the other person is looking at his own behavior. In simple terms, I'll be putting it in this way. When a teacher is addressing to a body of students, in the face of these students, he is finding out a matrix for his own evaluation. When the students smile, he considers his lecture is going well. When the students are primarily carrying a big face, he is reorienting his lectures, bringing examples, bringing different kinds of illustrations to develop interest among the students so that when the lecture is over, students consider it was a wonderful lecture and he feels happy about it. Therefore, in our everyday life, when you make a word, when you are making gestures, when you are representing ourselves before the others, we are very consciously evaluating how the others are perceiving about us, good or bad, whether it is primarily acceptable or unacceptable. So this mental process goes on. Hence, most of the time, we present a kind of behavior that is being expected by the others from us, and our behavior is not arbitrary behavior. Therefore, others are the point of reference to us. Their credentials, their appreciation, their denouncement largely influence to our mode of presentation of self, presentation of our own behavior. So this primarily brings into the conclusion that the self of a person is continuously made, remade, restructured, reshaped, presented in different ways at par with the expectations of others. So therefore, a man cannot behave in an arbitrary manner. The behavior of a person is greatly defined by the expectations, anticipation, evaluation, projection, and the recognition of others. This theory was subsequently taken up by another distinguished sociologist known as D. Boas. D. Boas looks into the double consciousness of blacks in America. This is a brilliant piece of work talking about a struggle that most of the minorities, ethnic and racial, are facing in case of America. He tells within the body of a black person, there are present two souls. Every black in America is considering the successful whites as the point of reference. He goes for higher education, follows the rules of law, speak in good English in anticipation that at some point of time or the other in his life, he will be accomplishing the goals like the white Americans. That gives him stimulus, that gives him hope, that gives him confidence that he is an American, and America being a land of equality of opportunity, he can be accomplishing that goal, what is being attributed to other white Americans. But most of the time, others look at him not just as an educated person, not as a person who is primarily carrying a critical mind, a person who can make intellectual debates and arguments, a person who is having worth and individual talent. Rather, the worth of a person is greatly evaluated by the other race in terms of color. Therefore, most of the blacks live with dualistic identity. Identity, what they are creating for themselves through education, through personal success, through commitment to law, and the other kind of identity that others are projecting for them, that they are blacks, they cannot control their emotion, they cannot be given high profile employments. So this dualistic identity is steering a black body, because within that black body there are present two contradictory or dialectical souls. So Du Bois writes that others' opinion about a black is most important than black's opinion about himself. And this brilliant analysis we can apply to Indian context. In India, untouchability was a great inhuman practice, persistent since historic times. It is the higher caste Brahmins, they create opinion about lower caste. The texts written by the Hindu Brahmins that speak about the fact that untouchables are not originating from bodily parts of the God. Therefore, untouchables are not equal to other Varna categories in India, like Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaisyas, and Sudras. Therefore, higher caste create a kind of opinion about untouchables, conceptualizing that their very presence is inauspicious. Their touch is greatly defiling in character. So this kind of opinion is leading to the seclusion of untouchables in Indian society for centuries together. And that develop a kind of self-doubt among the untouchables. That if the others are carrying an opinion about us, our opinion about ourselves and their opinion about ourselves are greatly contradicting in character. And this contradictory understanding of self is leading to a form of dialectics. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar made a brilliant attempt to take Dalits away from out of this contradictory identity. And he said that Dalit consciousness is different from Brahminic consciousness. When Brahminic consciousness is otherworldly, Dalit consciousness is this worldly. Brahmins give importance on salvation. Dalits give importance on existentialism. Dalit talks about materialistic identity, survivalism. And Brahmins give more importance on otherworldliness. Therefore, materialism standing opposite to spiritualism. This worldly orientation versus otherworldly orientation. Humanism versus spiritualism are two distinctive ideology differentiating between Brahminic culture from that of Dalit culture. Therefore, Ambedkar indicated, and very brilliantly he said so, that to get out of this dichotomy, you must have to develop an identity for yourself. Than living with an identity that others are extending to you. So therefore, reference group theory is a brilliant masterpiece, a sociological outline. Keeping in mind, we can understand how untouchables in past were living with the identity of others, experiencing social seclusion, and now rejecting that kind of identity. They have created a kind of identity for themselves and living in a space created by them, driven by the principle of equality, justice, humanism, democracy. So these values, when they are creating for themselves, they consider their point of reference are no longer Brahmins. Their point of reference is the leader, the intellectuals, may that be primarily Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, or maybe Jyotirba Phule, or maybe Ramaswamy Naikar. So, this brilliant masterpiece of DBOS, of double consciousness, is also offering a foundation to the understanding of how referent groups of different types are giving rise to a situation in which one suffers from identity crisis, one suffers from subjugation, or treating others as the point of reference. One can also go for progress and mobility. Another person who comes to my mind is G.H. Mead. Mead makes a distinction between significant others and generalized others. Significant others are the body of people whom we consider as our ideals. We emulate their behavior, keep them as the point of our reference. We learn their cultures, values, and attributes. And learning their cultures, attributes, values, norms, ethical standards, we try to shape our behavior. For every child, father may be an ideal, so long as he is living in the family. When he steps out of the family, he finds out some good teachers as his ideals. Nationalist leaders may be ideals of the people, or people excelling in different frontiers of life may be operating as the ideal to an individual. A person systematically looks into the behavioral pattern of these ideals, treat them as the point of reference, and treating them as the point of reference, learning their virtues, their values, their everyday presentation of life in public sphere of society, he evolves a kind of personality and presents that personality to the others. Therefore, every individual is having one referent person or a body of referent person. And these referent persons are keeping changing all through the life of a man. Because throughout his life he meets new people, exposed to new situations, addressing to new problems. Therefore, his references are greatly changing on a continuous basis. Therefore, the behavior of a person or a personality of a person at one point of time is bound to be different from the personality of a person at another point of time. Because the very persona of a person is dynamic because it is keeping different bodies of ideals as the point of reference. So, carrying this personality, one presents a behavior before generalized others. Generalized others refers to a body of people with whom a person is negotiating in his everyday life. How he is presenting himself through language, through gesture, through primarily presentation of behavior, whether he is concerned when others are suffering or he is absolutely paying no attention to them. All these kinds of things are greatly influenced by the kind of training, the kind of input he has received from his ideals. So, therefore, GSB tells one cannot carry a self without the influence of others, and these others mostly operate as the referent points to an individual. Therefore, socialization is an ongoing process, and that process starts from childhood. And from childhood onwards, one is keeping a large body of people as his point of reference. If one looks into the analysis of psychologists also talk about in the family how a child is considering parents first as the point of reference. Depending on the kind of socialization he is receiving from the family, he is projecting his own self. Therefore, reference groups are present in every sphere of life. And these reference groups mostly start from the family, extended to school, then to primarily the place where one is working. And these referent groups are greatly helping a person to direct, structure, modify, and present his personality. Now, the question is, why it is sociologically so important to study reference group? The concept of reference group was first introduced in sociology by Merton. And subsequently, this theory was taken up by Newcomb. Newcomb studied a body of students in a community college in America. You find out in community colleges, the teachers are mostly appointed from the community. Students are spending their weekends with the community. There is a strong interface between the community and the school is established, so that when the children pass out from the community schools, they are greatly engaged in different kinds of activities that can contribute for community development. Community leaders come and address to the students. Industrialists of the community, they sponsor different kinds of educational tours. Therefore, these community leaders in the form of teachers, sponsors, activists, they significantly influence to the orientation of the students, their behavioral patterns, their future expectations, a sense of dedication to the cause of community. So therefore, it was found out that students consider these community leaders, activists, mostly as their point of reference. And treating them as the point of reference, they target their future goals of life. It's a brilliant, kind of analysis. Gandhiji is being used as a point of reference by Anna Hazare. Therefore, we call Anna Hazare as a great Gandhian, who is speaking about non-violence, initiating civil rights movement in India. So therefore, unless until we have reference points, life will be absolutely reduced into a blank slate. There are people whose contributions we register in the core of our heart and mind. And these contributors to the great life of the society make such a big impact in our life that we try to be like them. We adore them. We are influenced by them. Therefore, certain kind of elements which are contradictory present in our everyday life, they are slowly and systematically altered and modified. Subsequently, you find out Stoffer. So he used a concept that is known as relative deprivation. And this concept of relative deprivation is very close to the concept of reference group. He studied the officers of American Army. In America, there are three different bodies of soldiers. One group of people were veteran combat soldiers. Second group of people were the replacement to veteran soldiers. And third group of people were the ordinary soldiers. Therefore, army had three groups of people: veteran soldiers, non-veteran soldiers, and replacement to veteran soldiers. The kind of economic compensation, privileges, other kinds of benefits, social acknowledgement given to the veteran soldiers, that is not extended to ordinary soldiers. Therefore, ordinary soldiers develop a sense of relative deprivation in comparison to veteran soldiers. And the replacement soldiers to the veteran soldiers, they treat these veteran soldiers as their point of reference. And they consider that, like them, if they can fight for their country, like them, if they can adopt a strategy, it will be giving them big name, a big sense of satisfaction, and a big sense of accomplishment. So therefore, the people, those who are replacing to veteran soldiers, treating veteran soldiers as their point of reference, they don't give more importance to promotions, economic benefits. Rather, they give importance to their commitment to work and the job in hand. That is how one group of soldiers regularly motivate to another group of soldiers to manifest excellence in different spheres of life. This is very brilliant to primarily apply to corporate sector in India. If you look into Infosys, Narayan Murthy is being adored by the entire family of Infosys as the point of reference. His dedication, his commitment, his involvement with whatever he is doing, his commitment to the cause of the deprived sections of the society, his commitment to the well-being of the nation at large is making him a great point of reference, not only to other members of Infosys family, but also to a large body of youngsters in the country today. Therefore, treating him as the point of reference, there are thousands of youth in India today committed to take India into the biggest height of economic growth and development. So therefore, the sense of frustration, the sense of marginalization, the sense of deprivation, the sense of inequality that was growing in a big way in the heart of youth population today is now being channelized in a positive direction, because they have positive referent groups standing in front of them. Therefore, if we have positive reference groups, then we find out these referent individuals can motivate thousands of people to achieve laurels in life. Negative energy can be converted into positive energy. And this conversion of negative into positive energy will be used as an instrument for highest degrees of growth, leading to highest degrees of happiness for the highest number of people in social life. So therefore, Stoffer found out that in case of American Army, the big achievers are used as the point of reference by the replacement force. Therefore, they stay motivated, committed, despite all hardship. they stay dedicated to the particular cause for which they are joining army. Merton and Kit, they are using a concept known as anticipatory socialization. This is also related to the whole idea of reference group behavior. Every man lives with hope. He lives with ambition. Living with hope and ambition, he considers that he can achieve big success in life. He finds out in society there are present in large groups or a group of people who are known for their excellence in different frontiers of life. So different groups of people are mostly operating as the reference point of an individual who is trying to achieve big success in life. Therefore, multiple reference groups are present. And within a particular reference group, there may be multiple referent individuals present. Therefore, without becoming a member of that group, many times people adore the individuals belonging to the group. Systematically, they follow the behavior of these people belonging to the group, thinking that at a future date they can fit into this group. So I consider, this kind of anticipatory socialization is helping a person to actually get into the other group in a very effective manner at one point of time or the other. That brings in some important questions. For example, Gandhi is dead, but many people, they consider Gandhians as the point of reference. Therefore, young people are putting Gandhi kurta, putting on Gandhi cap, putting on chappals like Mahatma Gandhi used to put on. So this kind of behavior can be a manifestation of anticipatory socialization. This anticipatory socialization is helping them to become a Gandhian leader at a future date. Likewise, many children, they imitate the behavior of the parents. And GHB brilliantly tells this kind of imitation is a form of anticipatory socialization. So this anticipatory socialization is helping a child to play the role of the father when he is becoming a real father after attaining his adulthood. Therefore, anticipatory socialization is helping an individual to experience social mobility and to negotiate with the future times, changing positions in an effective manner. Robert K. Merton uses this concept of anticipatory socialization in varied ways. And this concept also is used by different sociologists to understand different kinds of behavioral patterns of the people in different social situations. Take, for example, negative aspects of anticipatory socialization I am talking about. If a person is treating the drug addicts as the point of his reference, nowadays in colleges and schools one finds out that students are into drugs, which is really a worrying problem. How that all happens? In these educational institutions, one can find out few students have gone for drugs, and the others at times treat this handful of students as their point of reference. While communicating with these other students who are into drugs, they get to know that drug takes them into trance stage. Drugs make them self-confident. Drugs never give them a sense of frustration. So the celebration of drugs by a body of drug addicts is primarily taking non-drug addicts into the platform of drug addicts. So therefore this is a negative reference group. Treating drug addicts as the point of reference, some simple, nice, studious children, they are influenced by the behavior of drug addicts and subsequently become a part of their group. That is how the number of drug addicts expand. Similarly, one can look into, few body of people, those who are successful. There are many people who achieve success, economic success I am talking about, by violating to rules of law. They use different kinds of means to convert black money into white money. They become extremely successful in life. And a person who conforms to rules of law, he doesn't get access to basic amenities of life. When society celebrates to these people who are the big achievers, even though they are compromising with rules of law, the conformists at times treat these other people as their point of reference. And they deviate from normal paths. They also primarily violate rules of law and strive for easy way to success. That is how one criminal makes two criminals. Two criminals make 20. So therefore Merton brilliantly tells that in every society there are present reference groups. They may be drug addicts, they may be people those who are making black money, they may be good professors, they may be good journalists, they may be the nationalist leaders. Therefore whom one takes as the point of reference, that is what is important. Taking them as the point of reference, one is shaping his behavior, defining his personality, and determining his future course of action. Therefore, reference group behavior tells that how choosing our reference groups, we are primarily shaping our behavior in a definite direction. And since in every society there are positive reference groups present, negative reference group presents, some people become conformist, others become deviants. Therefore, deviants and conformists are two sides of the same coin. One may be good, other may be bad, but they are real, present in every social life. Therefore, the matter of concern here is that, as a student of sociology, we should see how these reference groups make appearance, how these reference groups are shaping the personality of others, and how different bodies of people going for various degrees of anticipatory socialization are manifesting discourses what ultimately leads to conformity and also leading to deviance. When one talks about referent groups, one has to keep in mind that there can be a normative reference group. Means the norms, values, customs of a particular group we really appreciate. We never want to become a part of that reference group, but we appreciate their norms. For example, we may take the case of Brahmins in traditional India. They used to take bath early in the morning, give importance on bodily purity, go for ritual performance. Therefore, there are many who may not be interested to become Brahmins, but like Brahmins, they also follow same kind of norms. Gandhiji gave importance on specific kind of norms: discipline, non-violence, regularity, moralism, fraternity, humanism. These were the norms which were glorified by Gandhiji. Many people followed these norms. I cannot say all of them became Gandhians without putting on the Gandhi cap, without participating in nationalist movement. There are many in case of India today, those who are accepting to, internalizing to this kind of Gandhian ideals. Therefore, there are many normative groups are values. We simply adore it, follow it, then becoming a part of that group. Also, in every society, there are present comparative reference groups. When I speak about comparative reference groups, I mean suppose a group of students in lower class are comparing their advantages and disadvantages with that of the positions, opportunities, privileges enjoyed by the students belonging to higher class. Children belonging to higher class, they are the leaders of the school, captains of football team. Their voice is more audible. Teachers and the principal respect to whatever they do and say. Therefore, students belonging to lower class, they consider themselves as disprivileged relatively in comparison to the students belonging to higher class. Therefore, comparing this advantage in favor of you, disadvantage against them, they develop a feeling that when they get promotion into next class, they should also be more audible, more enforcing, and they can also primarily present their case before the administration of the school. In our everyday life, we can also have referent individuals, specific individuals like Professor Abdul Kalam. We can have different referent individuals. We treat these individuals as our point of reference, and closely we monitor their ideals, their behaviors, their practices, and try to emulate them. We can have multiple reference groups at one point of time, and we adore these groups for differential purpose at different points of time. Suppose a good ideal industrialist like Narayana Murthy. And also we may primarily appreciate a great intellectual. We may also appreciate a great social activist. Therefore, keeping different persons as our point of reference, we try to evaluate them, take their behavioral patterns into our consideration to shape our personality. So, therefore, multiple reference groups we can have. We can have a single reference group. We can have a normative reference group. Also, we can have a comparative reference group. Also, we can have referent power. This is very important thing, which is very significant to understand the dynamics of politics in contemporary India. You know, in case of India, those who are in power, not only they enjoy power, those who are in power, their kids and kins are also enjoying power. This is not greatly, reflecting on the kind of democracy. Rather, it is reflecting on the kind of democracy we are creating as the citizens for ourselves. In many situations, we find out the kinsmen of a family, where from a minister comes or a member of parliament comes, they empower themselves with the power of the powerful person. He becomes the referent power. My father is primarily this and this. My uncle is this and this. So that is evolving into a typical political culture in India. A person who is sitting in the chair, a person who is sitting in the position of power, the chair is not important. Rather, person himself becomes important, which I would be considering as a tragedy, not only of Indian democracy, but also of Indian political system. So that Merton talks about referent power. Therefore, we have different kinds of references which are present in our society, and these forces of reference are continuously shaping, modifying our personalities, through which we primarily present ourselves distinctively in different spheres of social life. I'll be bringing in certain questions here. The first question that strikes to my mind is reference group behavior and how it is creating a kind of strength in individual life. When a person is treating other group as the point of his reference, he is systematically deviating himself from his own group norms. Take for example, a student who is taking teacher as the point of reference. So he is not behaving like a student. He is trying to dictate terms over the other students of the class. Because the teacher's identity has gone into his head. He is not playing the role of a student in a normal manner. That is leading to certain kind of confusion. And his fellow students are passing remark at him that you consider yourself as a teacher. And his behavior within the student community is not a form of normal behavior, for which he is being cajoled at times, he is being scolded at times, and at times he is also punished. Therefore, he is reduced into a marginal person within his own group, leading to certain kind of isolation and a kind of crisis. But, no doubt, if he is modulating his personality, taking a teacher as his point of reference, in future, when he becomes a teacher, it will be easier for him to negotiate with teachers community because he has gone for anticipatory socialization well in advance to become a teacher. Suppose a student who is anticipating to become a leader. In the school, he is becoming the monitor of the class. College, he is contesting in the election. Anticipatory socialization is complete. But unfortunately, he fails to become a leader. If incidentally he becomes a teacher, he never thought teachers as the point of his reference. Therefore, he will be facing adjustment problem when he gets into this new social position, about which he didn't plan in advance. Therefore, these are the crises that people are going through in their everyday life. So, anticipatory socialization is potentially helping us to get into our future roles effectively. But that anticipatory socialization is also reducing us into marginal people within our own social group. These are the problems that Merton is trying to highlight in his theory of reference group behavior. In addition to that, when one goes for that reference behavior, one keeps in mind that the other group is more important than his own group. And reference groups are always identified which are more rewarded, the members of which are more visible. And those are reference groups to which everybody intends to get into. Therefore, always there is a comparative advantage a person realizes within his own group. Therefore, he is looking forward to the other groups which are enjoying more freedom, having better articulation, having a great political appearance, having social accomplishment, recognition. Therefore, these other groups are becoming the point of reference to an individual. And before treating a particular group as the point of reference, one identifies the reference individuals within the group. And that is helping him to experience mobility during his life course in society. Therefore, how reference groups are greatly admired, and through this admiration, one is making plans to experience mobility in different spheres of life that Merton is talking about in his reference group theory. And this reference group theory of Robert K. Merton can be compared with, number one, Marxian theory of class. Karl Marx tells in every class society, largely speaking, there are present two antagonistic classes, haves and have-nots. And these antagonistic classes always have a dialectical relationship with each other. In case of capitalism, bourgeois and proletariats have a dialectical relationship. In feudalism, lords and serfs have dialectical relationship. And in ancient society, masters and slaves have dialectical relationship. So classes cannot be compatible to each other, Marx talks about. And Marx also subsequently tells that deprivation of the disprivileged sections of the society is absolute and unbridgeable. And this deprivation is reaching its all possible height in case of capitalism. Therefore, in capitalism, true consciousness develops, polarization takes place, and class conflict becomes inevitable. And this class conflict in capitalism is contributing for the rise of a classless society. Merton never finds out the possibility of that polarized class conflict in society. In case of America, you find out blacks are not accomplishing their goals, but polarized conflict is absent. Looking into the distinction between Marxian ideology and the empirical condition of America, Merton writes that people suffer from relative deprivation than suffering from absolute deprivation. When a black is comparing himself with a white, he finds out deprivation is present. But when he is making a comparison between a particular body of blacks who have achieved certain accomplishment in life, socially visible, they consider that some of the blacks are more accomplished as against others. Therefore, between blacks and whites, there is no sense of absolute deprivation present. And that relative deprivation stimulates the blacks to go for higher education, to supplement to their knowledge and skills when they are at work, and subsequently it stimulates them to confirm the rules of law so that they can accomplish their goal in a big way. But some of them become successful, others are partly successful, others are least successful. Therefore, different forms of discontent is present. Since this is not a story of absolute deprivation, therefore polarized class conflict is not present in capitalist America. This is a brilliant way in which Merton is primarily rejecting the theory of Karl Marx and saying that classes aspire for mobility, keeping upper class as their point of reference. And that kind of aspiration for mobility, individual success or group success, stands on the way of polarized class conflict in American society. If I make a comparison between Robert K. Merton and Max Weber, Weber speaks of bureaucracy, indicating bureaucracy is driven by rules of law. Bureaucracy is goal-oriented. Bureaucracy is driven by the principle of impersonality. And bureaucracy is the hallmark of modernity and progress. Merton considers this is an idealistic view of bureaucracy. Every institution to Merton is having functions, dysfunctions, and non-functions. I discussed that with you yesterday. He tells that empirical functioning of bureaucracy is so different from the ideal type of bureaucracy spelled out by Max Weber. And he brilliantly tells how within the structure of bureaucracy there is a possibility of glorification of personality cult. There are present many bureaucrats who glorify their personality cult than conforming to rules of law. And he also talks about the presence of corruption in bureaucracy. When there is a corruption in bureaucracy, a bureaucrat is violating to rules of law for the gratification of his self-centric goals. Therefore, ideal elements of bureaucracy are not so similar to the empirical elements of bureaucracy. Therefore, Merton is questioning to Weberian theory of bureaucracy, expanding to the scope of bureaucracy, and looking into how really American bureaucracy is in operation. If you make a comparison between Durkheim and Merton, you find out that Durkheim talks about anomy. Merton also talks about anomy. Durkheim looks into anomy in two distinctive ways. Anomy within a normal society, and anomy is a social condition. Durkheim tells in every society, few people are always present, those who violate to rules of law. So therefore, violators or deviants or criminals are present in every society. But these criminals, being primarily handful, they cannot do any injury to the larger society. They cannot derail the persistence and continuity of society. Because majority of people do conform to rules of law, only a handful of people, they violate the rules of law. Therefore, if their number is few, society simply ignore them. If their number increases, society enforces law and sanctions on these deviants. And Durkheim brilliantly tells, even though there is punishment, crime will not be eliminated from social life. Punishment will be there and criminals will be there. Therefore, punishment is not a deterrent to crime. But by punishing somebody, you restore people's confidence in rules of law. Therefore, majority of people, those who are conforming to rules of law, they will feel happy when a violator is being punished. Therefore, punishment restores people's confidence in rules of law. Punishment cannot guarantee that crime is eliminated. And also he tells when there is a great social change, old society is disappearing, new has not made appearance, people are greatly confused, there anybody will be doing any kind of job on the basis of their choice. Therefore, turmoil will be present, crisis will be present, confusion will be present, and that is a primarily anomic stage. Merton, to its contrast, interestingly tells, in every society there is anomy. And anomy appears, deviance appears for different reasons. And he tells, there are present conformists. Who are conformists? Conformists, those who follow the rules of the society very effectively, keeping in mind that these goals are ultimately going to bring them closer to their ends. And I find out, in case of contemporary India, every parents are sending their children to coaching centers, engineering coaching centers, medical coaching centers, schools, extra classes, thinking that their children are going to get into engineering or medical stream. But most of the time, few students are selected, rest are not. So therefore, knowing that there is a least possibility for their children to become successful, all parents are engaged in this madness. Every child is studying for 12 to 14 hours to get a first division. But ultimately, all are not getting first division. Therefore, those who are not getting it, they live with a heavy heart. He also tells many people, they follow the rules of law, don't achieve the success. Therefore, they violate the rules of law, go for success. They are also a category of deviants. There are many like hippies, drug addicts. They neither care for norms, nor they care for the goals. They live their own life. They are also deviants. And there are others, those who are not conceding to the idea of the state, bring new ideas, new direction to change. we tell them as social activists. They are also deviants. Therefore, Merton tells most of the people are manifesting deviant behavior because they live in a condition where deviance gives them a kind of happiness. Deviance take them closer to reality, closer to the gratification of their goals. Therefore, deviance and conformity are two sides of the same coin. One cannot distinguish one from the other. Thank you.
So, as you discussed the various problems which talked about the Merton in the context of American society century back, what was the society conflicting, the same we find in India.
Absolutely
Uh,
correct.
so, but there, apart from this, there are other problem like as you said, corruption. What is the diagnosis of corruption through we find through the Mertons, then the drug addicts and
Right.
another social
Right,
problem
right,
like
right.
widowhood, etc. So,
Yes.
how you briefly will explain to look at these things while studying the
Right.
Robert Merton?
I always consider that most of the sociologists are the marginal men in their own country. Durkheim was a Jew in France. Merton was a Jew from Russia settled down in America. Marx was a man who lived all his life in poverty. When these marginal people coming from the grassroots, they look at the reality. They understand the true essence of reality. Merton tells that why people go for drug addiction, why people go for alcoholism. He tells, most of the time you'll be finding out the people, those who are highly educated, they go for alcoholism. They go for alcoholism for the reason that after going for prolonged education, carrying all credentials with them, they don't get a meaningful occupation. It is not their knowledge what stands as a barrier for their occupational success. Most of the time, it is their color, it is their family, it is their heredity that stands as an obstacle on their way. Therefore, they realize that any amount of labor they may put in, any kind of education they may go for, but society is not going to accept them in equalitarian terms. As a matter of protest, they primarily go for a differential behavior. Therefore, drug addiction or alcoholism are not just medical problem. They are primarily, social issues, what one has to primarily understand, sympathetically getting into the roots of the problem, that why one is going for drug addiction, why is one going for alcoholism, why is one going for different kinds of deviant behavior.
Okay. So, well, friends, as the Dr. Subhas Mahapatra explained the things in a practical terms, and also he said that all the sociological thinker belong to a marginal section of the society, so they knew the reality. So the basic point is that how to observe the reality and how you see things will change when we explain the things in reality and look at the solution which are in sync with the reality. So this is what we should look at while looking at any social problem. Only then we can get the solution. With this word, we conclude the lecture, and I thank all of you for watching the lecture. And on your behalf, I thank Dr. Subhas Mahapatra, who gave a very insightful lecture on these issues. So on your behalf, I thank him again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.